Hello, welcome, and thank you so much for tuning in. It's an honor to have you here. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about two of my favorite neurotransmitters. To start off with, just a little review around what neurotransmitters are. Neurotransmitters are tiny little chemical messengers in our body that communicate between our organs and muscles to generate different functions. Neurotransmitters play a big role in how our body sustains itself. In this context, I'd like to talk about how neurotransmitters impact mood. The two chemicals, neurotransmitters I'd like to talk about are cortisol and oxytocin. So we'll start by talking a little bit about cortisol. If you've heard about cortisol, you might have heard some really negative things about it, and it gets a really bad rap. But the reality is that we need cortisol to function. Cortisol is a chemical that can be released, a neurotransmitter that can be released when we experience a threat in our environment. And when we experience that threat, cortisol kicks in and it gives us increased focus. It gives us opportunities to actually reduce our blood pressure and regulate our emotional response to a stress so that we're able to move through that stressful circumstance effectively. So there's a lot of real benefits. It can also help sleep. And so we don't want to put cortisol in a negative box. Where it can be challenging is when we have either experienced a stressful circumstance, but our body is not regulating that cortisol and bringing it back down on its own, or when we're experiencing compounding one after the other stressful circumstances, our cortisol levels can really be pretty high. And just like with everything, when you have too much of something, it can start to cause problems and it can start to have the opposite effect of what it's intended to do. So if you carry around a lot of cortisol in your system, you might experience difficulty sleeping. You might experience some weight gain. You might experience blood pressure concerns. And so it can definitely have some negative impacts on health, and it can generate anxiety and create depression as well. And so, what we can do is talk about a different neurotransmitter that we might be able to call upon to help bring our neurotransmitters into a little bit more homeostasis. And so, the other neurotransmitter I can talk about is called oxytocin. And oxytocin is sometimes labeled as the love neurotransmitter. It is a chemical, a neurotransmitter that is released when we experience connection and attachment to other people or animals. Anytime that we have an awe response where we see, oh, that's so precious, that's so adorable, that is oxytocin being released into our bodies. And it really is an important neurotransmitter for us to form an attachment to others and for us to experience empathy and kindness for ourselves and other people too. So, a really cool one. There's a little exercise we can do to think about how we might be able to reduce those cortisol levels while increasing oxytocin. And so, in so doing, we might be able to create a little bit more balance in our bodies and minds. The exercise I like to go through is what I call deep belly breathing. And in this process, we are concentrating oxygen in our stomach. The cool thing is that when we do so, we're able to hack our bodies and actually increase the level of oxytocin, and we can release some of that chemical back into our bodies and create a little bit more balance. So to do this, to start off, it'd be great if you could take a little tiny piece of paper and just jot down on a scale of 1 to 5, where are you at with your stress right now? Maybe 1 is zero stress, just top of the world. And then 5 is I'm just at my wit's end. I'm so stressed out, I can't even think straight. So on that scale, just jot down what number you are. I'll give you a second to do that. All right. So now that you've identified a number as far as where your stress is at, we'll try deep belly breathing. I can show you when we're deep belly breathing, The hand on the chest is staying exactly where it's at, and the hand on the belly is the one that's moving. I've got some cat hair, you know I'm a cat dad. So let's go ahead and try 20 seconds. That's all it takes. 20 seconds of deep belly breathing to reduce a little bit of cortisol and increase some oxytocin in our system. So we'll go ahead and start that 20 seconds now. All right, we're at about 20 seconds. And so now that we've gone through just a little bit of deep belly breathing, if you could jot down where is your stress level now on that same scale of 1 to 5. And in some circumstances, that number has decreased for people. And in other circumstances, it stays the same, which is okay too, because sometimes deep belly breathing is less about, reducing cortisol and increasing oxytocin. So it is about capping it so that things don't get worse. So hopefully, if your number didn't increase, then you're set, and you've been able to hack your system a little bit. So I really love this exercise because it's one that you can do anywhere, and it doesn't take a lot of time, but it can have a very big impact. So if you'd like to hear a little bit more about neurotransmitters and the role that they play with our mood, or hear about some other exercises that can help regulate neurotransmitters in our body, you can reach out to me at victorcounseling@outlook.com. All right, thanks and take care. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye bye.